Hey everybody, this is Angela, and you're listening to Five Picks and a Chick featuring El Gato. This is a show that gives you 5 NFL picks for people who love football and friendly wagering. Today we are joined by two special guests, Mr. Parlay and Rudy. Hey guys, thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having us back. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Last week I went 2-3. El Gato went 2, 2, and 1 push. My season record is 37 wins, 28 losses. Gato's is 39 wins, 25 losses, and 1 push. My percentage is at 57%, and Gato's is at 61%.
Woo!
So, hey, Gato, we're still above 500.
Still above 500, and so long as the wins exceed the losses or pushes, we are in business. So yeah, we've been doing pretty good, Angela. Love
Yeah.
the record and the percentages.
Those are money-making percentages.
I know.
I will take it. I will take it.
Yep.
All right. My number one pick is going to be the Seahawks getting 2.5. They are at Arizona Cardinals. And this is a rematch from 2 weeks ago where Seattle held Arizona to only 6 points. Seattle has won 3 in a row. Arizona has lost 2 in a row. So I am going with the hotter team getting the points. Give me the Seahawks plus 2.5. What are your thoughts on this game, Rudy?
I think I'm definitely siding with Seattle also. 2 weeks ago, I think they were allowing like 131 yards through the first 8 drives before the Cardinals finally got to moving in the fourth quarter. But sorry, they both played sloppy games last week. Geno Smith, I think, is an underrated quarterback right now. I think he was leading the league in passing yards. I don't know if he still is, but I think this is a pretty good spot for Seattle.
What are your thoughts on this game, El Gato?
Yeah, I'm going to take Seattle also. The last couple of games, I think Kyler's just been struggling, especially in the second half. He did it, struggle against Seattle a couple of weeks ago. Struggled against the Vikings last week with, fumble in the pocket or two and an interception to close out the game or seal the game for the Vikings. I think Arizona needs to maybe rely more on their run heavy game. That good running back they have, Connor, and now it's if they do that, it's going to force Seattle to see if they can hold up on that front seven on the defensive line and their linebackers. I think they can do it. To Rudy's point, Geno, man, sometimes I think that guy is great. Sometimes I think he's just awful, right? The inconsistency sometimes he shows, but been playing some good football as of late. I'll take the better quarterback and the better defensive team at this point. I'll take Seattle with the points.
What are your thoughts on this game, Mr. Parlay?
Well, I do like Seattle with the points. Cardinals on a downward trend. I think in the last few games, they've scored an average of 14, and Seattle's beat the Cardinals for 4 consecutive games. So I'm all on board with Seattle.
My second pick is going to be Browns at the Steelers. Steelers are minus 6.5. This is another rematch from 2 weeks ago. And I think in this game, the Steelers want revenge from the Browns because they lost to the Browns. Steelers have shown they can win defensive games and offensive games. I think Wilson is a better player than Winston. Give me the Steelers minus 6.5. What are your thoughts on this game, Rudy?
Give me Cleveland. When they had their first game, even that game I think would have been a shootout, to be honest, if it wasn't so poor weather conditions. I don't know if they can win again outright, but I definitely think that they can cover with Jameis looking like prime Brett Favre on steroids, throwing 170 yards to the other team, but 500 yards to his team. I mean, he technically threw for 6 touchdowns this game, so I think it's a cool spot for him to cover. I don't know about them winning outright again, though.
What are your thoughts on this game, El Gato?
I want to go with the Steelers and that tough defense they have at minus 6.5. The Steelers, they've won 4 out of 5. The Browns, on the other hand, have lost 3 of 4. To Rudy's point, Jameson can look good sometimes, can look awful, almost like Geno Smith. Jameson with those pick sixes last week or earlier in the week against the Broncos. Of course, the Broncos have a very tough defense. I don't think he can. I think he's going to be having some lingering effects this week against the Steelers. And to your point, Angela, yeah, Russell Wilson playing lights out right now, real consistent, matriculating the ball up and down the field, solid pass game, solid run game, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, solid defense. I think their Steelers are going to be playing for some seeding position now. I know they're 9-3, a couple of games behind the Bills, maybe 4 games or 3 games behind the Chiefs for home field. I don't think they can get it there, but they can certainly vie for a good position in the seeding. That's what they're playing for. It's time for them to make that run. Tom will have them ready. So, yeah, Steelers -6.5.
What are your thoughts on this game, Mr. Parlay?
Winston and Chubbs. All right. So, even though Pittsburgh's getting some of that secondary back, I think one of their cornerbacks comes off of IR. I think his name is Trice. Look, that last game was crazy snow. Oh my goodness, you couldn't do it. They couldn't do so many snow angels. But the thing is going back to Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. I get the spread. I think you guys said 6.5, right?
Yes.
Okay. I get the spread. So I like Cleveland to cover the money line. I'd probably go Pittsburgh, but I think Cleveland covers on that +6. So,
if it was a battle against who's the funniest, definitely Winston.
Oh my God.
He cracks me up.
He
I
is.
love that guy. He is a funny guy. All right, Rudy, do you have a third pick for us?
I don't know what the line is exactly right now. The last time I saw it was at +4. I'll take the Chargers against the Kansas City Chiefs.
It still is.
Okay, so yeah, +4 Chargers. Their defense has been playing pretty solid all year. I think every Harbaugh team is pretty good at running the ball, controlling the game defensively. Patrick Mahomes is definitely trending upwards from the start of his season since they got DeAndre Hopkins. They should have lost last week. They almost lost to the Panthers. I think they played down to their competition, but it kind of seems like they may just beat that team right now. So I like the Chargers to cover here.
What are your thoughts on this game, El Gato?
I'm going to go with the Chiefs at -4. Both teams have won 4 out of 5 of the last games. Yeah, so the Chargers struggled last week against the Falcons. If it not been for Cousins throwing the ball right at the Chargers defensive back, Chargers would have lost that game. Dobbins is still out, which doesn't make their run game as efficient. To Rudy's point, they still have that solid defense that keeps them in games. They had a physical matchup a couple of weeks ago against the Ravens, which they lost. And the Chiefs get Pacheco back. They added one piece to their O-line, which kind of solidifies that. Maybe will make Mahomes more comfortable in the pocket, be able to go through his entire progression like we've seen him do in the past. I think the Chiefs start rolling on this one, get going offensively. I think it's a good spot for them. I think it's a touchdown win for the Chiefs. I'll take the Chiefs.
What are your thoughts on this game, Mr. Parlay?
my goodness, do the Chiefs ever freaking lose? I mean, they get all the referee help. They got it with the Raiders. So let's talk about this. Okay, so their Chiefs are going out to clinch their 9th straight AFC West title, I think, with this win against the Chargers. Harbaugh's going to come in. That defense is going to minimize those points again. They're only allowing about 16 points per game. So I like the Chargers. I think the Chargers, even playing in Kansas City, the Chiefs got to get. They're going to give up one here. We're just trying to figure out which one. So I'll take the Chargers and the points.
Yeah, I'm going with the Chargers and the points as well. Chiefs have not covered a spread in 6 games. A lot of these games they're playing, they're close games, which is surprising. And a lot of it has to do with luck. I think this will be a low-scoring defensive game. I'm going to take the Chargers plus the points.
All right.
Do you have a 4th pick for us, El Gato?
Yeah, I have some picks. I want to talk about the Dolphins against the Jets. The Dolphins are at -6. The Jets have lost 4 of their last 5 games. Miami, on the other hand, they've won 3 out of their last 5. Miami had a very tough loss against Green Bay. That was a tough spot for them to be in. Jets in a brutal physical game with Seattle dropped that game. So both teams dropping games last week. I think this game this week is going to be a matchup of defenses. They're both kind of struggling and injured on the backside, talking about the secondaries of both teams. When that happens, I'm going to take Tua on this one. They've got the better wide receivers, I feel. Tua is more mobile. He's got a better run game than the Jets do. So I think they're 1 touchdown better than the Jets in this spot. I'll take the Dolphins.
What are your thoughts on this game, Rudy?
I think those are all great points, honestly. Miami, Tua's looked really, really good since coming back from his 100th concussion. I think the Jets on the road since 2023, they're 3-10-1 against the spread. Last 8 at home for Miami. They're 6-1-1 against the spread, specifically against the Jets. I don't know. I mean, the Jets are struggling to score 20 points, and I think in a couple of the matchups with Tua against the Jets, I think they're averaging like 29. So I think this game, I mean, I don't know if talking about benching Aaron Rodgers is completely off the table for them or not, but I think in this game, if he starts out poorly, I think that's definitely a possibility moving forward for the rest of the year for the Jets.
Boy,
So
that's
definitely
interesting.
take Miami.
What are your thoughts on this game, Mr. Parlay?
Well, Rudy brought up about the concussions, about 100. Aaron Rodgers has only had 3 concussions, I think, in his career. So, he's got 97 more to go at 40 years old.
Oh my
So,
God.
hey, look, Miami's not a top 10 power rankings. And even when you look at fantasy football today, Tua is the number 1 quarterback on the don't start him, sit him. So it's almost like how can you go against the Jets on this? But I think you all make good points. I think I'd have to lean against with Miami. The Jets are just on a downward trend. Aaron Rodgers is not a 40-year-old quarterback like some other 40-year-old quarterbacks we might talk about. But
Brady.
well, I didn't want to bring that up, but okay. And but anyway, yeah, it's just Miami. I'd have to go with Miami on this one.
Yeah, I'm going with Miami -5.5. Jets are awful. Miami had their 3-game winning streak snapped last week, but Jets are awful. Miami's offense should get back on track at home, and Jets are awful. So give me Miami -5.5.
I've
Yeah,
got
but
some
Fitz-
I've got some breaking news, Angela.
What's that?
The Jets are awful.
Awful.
Yes, I'm glad you see it that way.
Finally I know what you mean.
Do you have a 5th pick for us?
I do. I've got the Bills versus the Rams. The Bills are at -3.5. Bills winner of 5 straight games. They've beaten some very good teams. Rams, on the other hand, seem like they're taking turns each week. They win, they lose. They win, they lose. Kind of a revolving week by week. What the Rams have been doing. Bills with the really top-notch secondary. Surprised I watched that game. I watched the last couple of games. They really have played some good ball on the backside. I'm talking about the Bills. Rams, on the other hand, have been spotty. Sometimes Stafford and his receivers are on point. Sometimes they're not. They're going to run into some challenges, I think, with the Bills secondary. So, which takes us to the next point. The Rams need to get that running game going if they want to be competitive. And Bills offensively are 28 plus points per game these last 5 or 6 games. Josh Allen has kind of been doing it all. He's hitting his 3rd down conversions, check downs, running for first downs, running for touchdowns, and the Bills also have a pretty good running back in Cooks that can get those 3rd downs and has that breakaway speed for those explosive plays. So I'm going to take the Bills here at -3.5. It's going to be a tough game at the Rams, but I think they're a touchdown better than the Rams at this point.
What are your thoughts on this game, Rudy?
I think the Bills are in a great spot here. They're rolling, winning 3 straight by double digits, including beating the Chiefs finally. Rams have been pretty mediocre as of late, even in playing the Patriots and the Saints. I think Matthew Stafford is dealing with an ankle injury. Rams up against the Bills above average secondary this year. I think the Rams are gonna have to rely on running the ball, which they do have a good running back, but it hasn't been the best over the course of the year. I think even if the Rams play their best, I think the Bills are still probably going to put up 30. So I definitely like the Bills right here.
What are your thoughts on this game, Mr. Parlay?
What a great segue talking about the Rams rushing. The one running back, Williams, has scored all 10 rushing touchdowns for the Rams. I think the Bills clinched already, right? And we still got a few weeks to go on the schedule. So,
Yep.
yeah,
Yes.
right? Yeah, so
Mhm.
so I'm all about the Bills. I think the Bills are definitely on a roll here, even clinching the division. I think they're pressing forward. So yeah, I'm all on board with the Bills.
And
Well,
the future MVP, Josh Allen.
Yeah, potentially.
It's going that way, but guess what? I'm going the other side on this one. I'm
Oh.
taking the Rams, getting 3.5.
Whoa.
Bills are on a roll. I agree. They have won 7 in a row, but I feel they could have a bit of a letdown this week after beating the 2 Super Bowl teams from last year in the Niners and the Chiefs back to back. This game, they travel cross country after a Sunday night game. Rams have a pretty good offense, so I'm going to go with the team getting the points, and that's the LA Rams plus 3.5.
All right.
Mr. Parlay, do you have a bonus bet for us?
The bonus bet for this podcast is the Dallas Cowboys
Oh God.
to cover. Let me tell y'all, Bengals have 4 losses, scoring 30 points. The Cowboys are 1-5 at home. They've allowed 35 points per game. It's like John Travolta. You seen that commercial? I forget what it's called. The credit card commercial. And John Travolta sprinkles that magic dust, and he's in Santa Claus suit. And then he does his cool Saturday Night Fever moves in Santa Claus suit.
Yeah.
The magic dust is being sprinkled on the Cowboys. The Cowboys are going to cover this week. The sprinkled magic dust begins with the conversation. Bill Belichick is going to coach the Cowboys next year. Woo-hoo!
We
Wow.
will see. Well, and let me just say that spread is Cincy minus 5.5. What are your thoughts on this game, Rudy?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to take the opposite side on this one. Unfortunately, I think Joe Burrow is actually gonna let out all his frustrations from the season onto the Cowboys. Porous defense. Cooper Rush has looked pretty decent though. He kind of looks like Jameis Winston if he stopped throwing picks. He's throwing for so many yards. But I think the Bengals actually let out all their frustration in this game specifically. I think it's gonna be a high scoring game. I think the Cowboys will probably pull like a Dak Prescott led Cowboys and try to backdoor cover in the fourth quarter. But I think this game is probably more of like a 10-point spread at the end of the game.
What are your thoughts on this game, El Gato?
Man, where do I start? What can I say after Alex's essay? to be serious on this one, the Cowboys have won 2 straight. Let the hype train start. All aboard, right? All aboard for the playoff run the Cowboys may be on. At least that's what I heard a little bit over the last couple of weeks with them winning 2 in a row. But they're still injured. They still have a backup quarterback. They still play poor defense, although it's getting better on that defensive line. But linebacking and the back end is still letting explosive plays, long touchdowns, extended drives. I think both teams are that way, Bengals and the Cowboys defensively. So with the Cowboys at plus 5.5. Rudy makes a good point about Burrow being able to throw touchdowns. Will he let off all his frustrations out on this Cowboys secondary? He might. Will Chase get off? Probably. So I'm going to go with the better quarterback on this one. I think he's at least 1 touchdown better than Cooper. So that should cover the 5.5. So I'll take the Bengals on this one.
I am going to go with the Cowboys. Bengals defense is bad. Cowboys have a flicker of hope. A flicker, but a flicker is a flicker.
Yeah.
I'm taking the Cowboys because Cincy's defense can't stop a nosebleed. So give me the Cowboys.
Would you say they're awful?
They are awful. All right, guys. So we're at that point. Anybody have any final thoughts?
I've got a few thoughts. I think we need to talk about some top contenders in both conferences, both AFC, NFC. I can start out the conversation. I think in the NFC, we're going to look at, the Lions. If they can stay healthy and keep it going, I think the Lions are going to be a problem in that conference. I think the Eagles are presenting another nuance into that discussion because now they have Barkley at the running back spot. The Eagles haven't had that in several years. So you throw him in and what he can do in the running game, you throw in the top wide receivers they have supporting Hurts and that defense that's really coming along for the Eagles. I see the Lions and the Eagles really, they should be, I'm thinking, in that NFC title game. On the other side, of course, we have the Chiefs, the luckiest team in the NFL. We've established that, right, so far.
Yes.
And then we've got the Bills coming up. They're in the rear, closing in on the Chiefs. And then you just have the Steelers that can just out physical you in every game when they want. They have the ability to do that. So that's going to settle out pretty well. The Ravens, I don't know, they're kind of slipping it a little bit. Top 3 teams maybe in the AFC, Chiefs, Bills, Steelers. Not necessarily in that order. I mean, anyone can win that on any Sunday. What do y'all think?
Definitely agree with the Bills, Chiefs, Lions, Eagles. I think the Eagles actually have a really, really good shot now that they've unlocked Saquon Barkley. And I feel like vice versa, Saquon Barkley has unlocked the Eagles. Funny stat, when AJ Brown just plays, I think the Eagles are 9-0. Their defense is playing really good. Their secondary is amazing I mean, it's weird to say it, but the two white cornerbacks, those dudes are electric. And I think the Lions are on a downward trend right now defensively because of how many injuries are piling
Yeah.
up. So I think I give the slight edge to the Eagles in the NFC, but I think the Bills are a different team this year than they've been in past years. I feel like more of their skill players are on the offense instead of on the defense. And Josh Allen isn't crazy turning over the ball, trying to play superhero all the time. He still has that in him, but I think it's the Bills and the Eagles right now, sitting at the top as we currently stand.
It's
What are your
nice.
thoughts
Nice.
on this, Mr. Parlay?
Look at that. I knew something was up. I just knew it.
I love it. I love it. That is so awesome. AKA Mr. Grinch.
That's right. He's a mean one. No, I like the way y'all break it down. It's really interesting. I have to, throw into the mix. You're probably not going to get a conference champ coming out of the West or the South. It's either going to be the North or the East, the Eagles, or maybe the Lions and Vikings or Vikings. So I like the Eagles going forward. On the AFC side, I hope the Chiefs don't go far. I hope they lose their first round. But that's probably not realistic. I think the Bills are great contenders, but I'm gonna go out on a limb since I did a friendly wager before the season, and I'm gonna go with the Texans sneaking up out of the South,
Wow.
and maybe being the silent killer for all of the AFC.
All right.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. That is interesting. We'll see.
Angela, excuse me. One team I failed to mention on the NFC side that's playing some pretty good football right now are the Packers. They're healthy. They've got a solid run game. Defensively,
Jordan
they're
Love
solid.
is doing well.
Tonight's game against the Lions will tell us a lot about how those teams are going to move forward after this game tonight. We'll see what happens.
As long as Jordan Love isn't throwing passes out of the end zone that don't even go across the goal line. Out of
He
bounds.
pulled a Will Levis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
They're winning though, so it's a
Yeah.
solid team.
they are. For me, on the NFC side, I'm going to agree with everything you guys have said. My number one pick would probably be the Eagles, followed by the Lions. And I picked the Eagles only because you know how when you're trying to start a barbecue and you light the lighter fluid on the wood or the charcoal, and then it just goes, right? Well, that's what Barkley has done to the Eagles.
Yeah.
He has been a major asset to the Eagles team. So I believe that the Eagles have a slight edge on the Lions. Lions are still great, but they do have injuries like Rudy, I think, mentioned in the podcast earlier. So that's what they're going to be facing. Now, on the AFC side, the Chiefs, man, they have been the luckiest team. And I wonder if that luck is going to continue through the rest of the season, the playoffs. But I would put the Bills in front of the Chiefs. And this is something I think Rudy mentioned in the podcast earlier. Josh Allen, we're talking MVP for him. My number one picks are the Eagles and the Bills.
Nice. I like that.
Well, if you've made it to this point in the podcast, we just want to thank you for listening to 5 Picks and a Chick. Make sure to find us on our YouTube channel at 5 Picks and a Chick. Hit the subscribe button as well as the like button. You can also find us wherever you get your favorite podcast. Thank you to Mr. Parlay, aka the Grinch, and Rudy for joining us today.
Thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely. That was fun again.
That was fun.
All right, make sure to join us next week. It will be a virtual podcast. It should be uploaded on Tuesday with our picks. And as always, thank you to El Gato for being part of 5 Picks and a Chick. 1, 2, 3, bet.
And that's a wrap.
And that's a wrap.